What's going on, Archivists, and welcome to the Staples List, a new series to be your guide to every card you need for the Grand Archive TCG. Now, before we start, let me tell you what I define a staple as. Because deck building in GA is so diverse and open, a staple should be any card that you should own and you can put into almost any deck that you play, whether it's a crucial piece to that deck or just a card that you should have. Today, we're going to be going over norm element cards with the maybe special exalted element card. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. But let's hop into it. So we're starting off with the Dungeon Guide. Dungeon Guide is a 4-of staple that is the first card that I would tell like 98% of GA players to pick up right off the rip. Reason why? This is just a card that says free level up. In this game, or any game where you can only do something once per turn, getting more of that thing more than once per turn is just really good. Dungeon Guide says, on enter, banish 2 cards from random. If you do, level up your champion. You don't pay the materialization cost because this says you level up ignoring the materialization cost. So if you're playing a level 3 deck, guess what? If you go Dungeon Guide from your level 2 into your level 3, you don't have to pay 3 memory, you only pay 2 because you're banishing 2 from your memory. So we have a few different printings for Dungeon Guide because it came out in DOA, it was in Prelude, it was in first edition, Alter, yada yada. Generally, you're just going to go with whichever one is the cheapest, which at the time of this is the DOA Alter version at about $25 a copy. So a playset's going to run you about $100. These can be a bit difficult to find on Merlin's Marketplace, but if you can find a playset, I encourage you to snap it up. You can regularly find them for maybe 80 to 90 bucks. But yeah, this is just the one card I will tell you to bite the bullet for. Next up, we've got Incapacitate. Now this comes in 2 printings because it basically was released in the Tristan Recollection deck. So you see it here in the Shadow Dancer and then the Recollection Light version. Doesn't matter which copy you pick up, they're the same card, same art, same printing. It's basically about $5 to $6 a pop. I would tell you to have a playset of these just because they're nice, but one thing to keep in mind is that we did get confirmation from Silidar that Incapacitate will be reprinted in Phantom Monarchs, so you don't have to pick these up now if you don't need them, but these are just your good general negates to have. It costs 4, but it does cost 2 less if you are an assassin, and you negate the target action card activation at fast speed. So this is really good to just say no to most spell cards and then a lot of action cards in the game that you can activate at fast speed. Now, a lesser version of this, I would tell you to pick up not only 4, but like 8 of is Annul Spell. I really like Annul Spell. It's 1 less than Incap, but it is also 2 less than Incap at level 2, and you negate the target spell card activation unless its controller pays 3 more reserve cost. So obviously it's not a hard negate, it doesn't just say no. It says no unless you pay 3 more, but depending on how your opponent has their turn mapped out, they might not have the 3 cards to pay to let that card go through, or they might just have to say, all right, I need to do something else, I'll let this card fail and let something else through. Obviously the card is not Incapacitate. If it was, it would be higher in price, right? But the big thing about the card is that it is a little bit more flexible because it costs 3 and goes down to 2, and lets you respond to things where you might not be able to with Incapacitate, because Incap means you have to hold up 5 in hand if you're not playing an Assassin deck. It's really good in Assassin deck, obviously, like Luxem or like Tristan, because they only play it for 2. Annul Spell has the same sort of ability where you only need to hold up 4 in hand, so 1 less, but when you're at level 2 or higher, you only need to hold up 3 in hand, which can be really nice. So I would definitely tell you to have some of these cards. They're uncommons, so they're dirt cheap. Next up, we've got Fast Cure. So Fast Cure is a card that is, if your opponent's influence is greater than yours, influence being the amount of cards in your hand and your memory, you get to recover 4. And it's floating memory, not class bonus, just straight floating memory that you activate at fast speed. Fast speed floating memory is really nice. Just boom, get it in the grave, and then you have it for when you go to materialize stuff on your next turn. This card is also fairly cheap here at around $1 to $2 a copy, depending on who you're getting it from. So just have a play set of these. You never know when you might play a deck that might want Fast Cure for your floating memory. Now we've got Resolute Stand. This just got reprinted in DTR, so we're gonna look at this copy of 2 different arts you can pick up, but the DTR version will obviously be less because it's, just came out. So this version of Resolute Stand says if target unit will be dealt attack combat damage, but it really just should say combat damage. This is a minor misprint. Attack combat damage, tomato tomato. This turn you prevent 3 of that damage, and the level 2 ability is that you can activate the card without paying its reserve cost. If you do, you skip your next draw phase. This is really good against something like in Soul or aggro, the sort of allies aggro where they're going to be dealing you damage, not the direct damage. This way, you're just preventing anything that is 3 or less. Now, if you're going to take something like an 8 damage attack, it'll only prevent 3 of that, so you will still end up taking 5. But in this game, where every single point of damage matters, that can be the difference between living to see your next turn or not. Now we've got Vanish from Sight, a 3-cost action, not a spell. So this is something that a null spell can't react to, but Incapacitate can. You can only activate this card during an opponent's recollection step. Your champion gains stealth until the end of turn, and it is a fast speed action. So this is really good because this means that during your opponent's recollection step, if you see that they have like a lot of cards up in hand, or they have all these allies and you weren't able to deal with them, boom, Vanish from Sight, make yourself stealth, and then they can't hit you unless they're hitting you with something True Sight, which I don't think a lot of decks right now at this very moment are running True Sight units. And even if they are, I mean, I know Wind allies can run True Sight units to hit you, but you know, that's just like one deck out of how many. So just a good generic card to have, and it's cheap at around 20-25 cents a copy, depending on who you're getting it from. So I would just pick up a couple copies of these just to have them. You don't need a whole playset, in my opinion. You'd probably play this like 2, max 3. Now, rounding out our damage prevention cards, we've got Crystallized Destiny from Abyssal Heaven that says, the next time damage will be dealt to your champion this turn, prevent that damage. And if you prevent 7 or more this way, cards your opponent activate this turn cost 2 more to activate. So this can be a really big game changer. I would say if your opponent knows you're playing it, they can definitely play around it. But if they don't know you're playing it and they kind of go for this big play and then they have more up in hand to do afterwards, you activate this, you prevent 7, making everything after that cost 2 more, because it's just cards. It doesn't matter what it is. Allies, spells, actions, like it's just going to cost 2 more. That can be really good. There's a reason that this is like a 3, 4, oh gosh, yeah. It's a reason this is like $3-4. So I would definitely pick up. I personally have a playset. If you have the cash to spare, I would pick up a playset. Just make sure you have a playset because card is just good, right? Staple, right? Now this one, I know this one isn't a norm element entirely. This is norm exalted, but it's norm as its major element, so we are going to include it in the norm staples list. Regal Inquisition, this is a $15 card. Reason this card is $15 is because this card is kind of really good. So look at your opponent's hand and memory, discard any amount of cards from among them. For each card you discard this way, that opponent reveals the top card of their deck and puts it into their hand. This card represents so much. This card represents game knowledge. Knowing what's currently in your opponent's hand and memory and what they're replacing those cards with that you're going to discard means you get to rip cards. So like, okay, cool. I see you've got this thing to either interact on my turn, or you've got this thing to try to go for game on your turn, or this problematic card, or just this card I don't want you to have, or maybe you have this card and I know this card is a brick for you right now and I'll let you keep that, but I'm going to replace all your problematic cards. Or maybe you just want to mill them out because if you're going to discard 7 cards, your opponent's going to pull 7 cards. This is basically like a 2-cost mill 7, which is kind of really good. Game knowledge, mill, get rid of problematic stuff. The only air quote ding against this card is that it's slow speed, but it's kind of good that it's at slow speed. It's a way to balance the card, especially with it being exalted. By the way, if you didn't know what exalted means, it means that you have to have an advanced element enabled in order to use the exalted element. Exalted is enabled whenever you have any advanced element enabled. So it warrants the cost. I wouldn't tell you to pick up a whole playset of these. This is, first of all, not even a card that you need to pick up right now at this very moment if you're going to play the game. It's just a card that should be on your radar, and if you're like trying to pick up staples, just cards to have, I would tell you to pick this up. Pick up 2 copies, $30, call it a day. If you don't have the money to spare, totally fine. Spend it on the rest of the cards. This one can wait. And so that is it for this episode of the Staple List. If you guys like this video, please do drop a like, drop a comment, letting me know what you thought about these staples, and did I miss any norm element cards that you would recommend for anybody to pick up. Let me know that, and subscribe, hitting the notification bell so that you know when future videos come out. Thank you guys for watching this video, and until I talk to you guys the next time, peace out.